You're on that panel. What are the benefits of cannabis? Like, what do you advocate for? Like, why the THC and cannabis route over the pain meds and the medicines that we have now in our league?
Bro, like, you guys remember, like, all the reports of the CTE and, like, guys killing themselves. Like, when Junior Seau committed suicide, that kind of shook me up. I was like, man, this guy had everything. He played 20 years, Hall of Famer. So I'm like, what would it take for him to kill himself? Like, he had it all. And so when I started to really look into it, and I'm looking at CTE and like is that going to be me in 10, 15 years? And so I started looking into other alternatives because there weren't no options. It was just like, yeah, you play this game and you hope and pray to God that you're going to be straight in, 15, 20 years, that you could live a normal life. But I was like, nah, I got to be more proactive. And then Eugene Monroe, he was playing for the Ravens at the time. He was the actual first advocate for NFL in the NFL for cannabis, and I seen him on CNN talking about it, and I reached out to him like, yo, bro, like, what's up? Like, I need to learn about this. And he just started sharing research with me. Like, in Israel, they do a lot of research on cannabis because it's a little bit more open. You can research it more easily, and so I started reading stuff, looking at the neuroprotecting qualities of it. When you go play football, like, you're doing this all day, and so you get those subconcussive hits that create inflammation in your brain. And so what CBD oil is basically patented as is a neuroprotectant. So if you take CBD oil, let's just say you take some, in theory, before you go and play a game, it would essentially limit the amount of inflammation that comes into your brain from different head trauma. So that was the big reason for me. I know a lot of guys use it for pain, inflammation. It's just a healthier alternative. It works naturally with your system as opposed to an opioid or another painkiller. It's just not as toxic to your system. So it's all about having options, bro.
Yeah.
CBD is definitely like something that can absolutely help. I have a buddy who has a company in Arizona called True Infusion, and they do like everything organic, like the right way to make CBD and stuff like that. So they run all that. And he all the time is like, man, I wish I could give you some of the stuff to take while you're playing. And and it's like, if you go and I take a pain pill, like for the next 3-4 days, like I've taken pain pills, and we can all agree, like, you don't feel better than when you take a pain pill. Like you feel amazing. There's a reason why it's so addictive.
Like, I'm ready to not feel pain. Like,
exactly. It's not that you don't have pain. It's like you forgot there ever existed the word pain. You know what I'm saying? Like, life's just different now. You know what I'm saying? So, but like once you take that, like, that chemically imbalances your brain. And so for the next 3-4 days, like, I'll even notice, like, I'm more irritated, or I'm more like, I'm more short with my wife, or my patience. I don't have as much patience with my kids or whatever. So it's kind of like, it's so easy to see, and something like a plant, like, that's so natural. And I just don't know why there's so much resistance on something like even hemp. Like, if you started growing and producing hemp, I've said this before in this podcast, like, there's 100,000 products that you could replace with hemp, including plastic, which is like truly affecting our ecosystem, our oceans, and everything, to an extent that it's not going to be us. And that's like, human beings are naturally selfish. Human beings are we come from caveman times. We haven't evolved enough. We're so focused on how do we eat, how do we reproduce, and how do we get ours. And the thing we need to start focusing on is, like, it's not going to be our kids, or it's going to be our kids' kids. So it's going to be our grandkids or great grandkids that are going to feel the effects of what we're doing now. And something as simple as letting an athlete take something like CBD would be so beneficial, because you don't have those things. Like, if you really were focused on, like, let's focus on CTE being an issue. Like, you don't want brain issues to happen. Like, offensive lineman and defensive lineman, those, like, little tiny hits, we call them subconcussion.
Subconcussive hits.
Subconcussive hits. Like, those are the things that add up over time. And those are the things you don't feel. But I noticed myself, like, even in November, December, late in the season, I'll be home and I'll be having, my buddies will come see me, and they'll be talking to me after games, and I can't even really I can talk. I can talk, but, like, I'm like, I'm not as, like, I'm not as sharp. I'm not as, like, with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely something that could be,
we
should be focused on.
Years down the road, like, probably in the near future, 10, 15 years, whatever, we're going to look back at this time and kind of, like, laugh at the way we're the NFL, and we all tried to go after, hey, replacing this with this, and be like, yo, what were we thinking taking all this stuff back then? We kind of know it now. I mean, intuitively we know that now, but we're definitely going to look back one day like, man, I can't believe it took this long for this stuff to kind of pass. Or
it's the same thing as, like, we look at like 30 years ago or 100 years ago in doctors. Like there's a Bell Mead plantation down the road, and they have like, it's a really cool place to go check out. I went and saw it. It's like a museum, and this woman had asthma. Well, whenever, like 1800s or whenever that was around, they prescribed her to smoke cigarettes and climb at high altitudes because the lung, I swear to God, because the lung was viewed as a muscle and not like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and you look at it and you're like, what idiots.
Yeah.
But in 100 years, they're going to be looking at us going, yo, what idiots. It's so like, technology is moving so fast, which allows us modern medicine to also move equally as fast.
Yeah.
So doctors that go to school in the 80s, and doctors, their identity is 100% what they know. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a doctor that went to school, graduated in 82, and didn't do anything else, his shit's so outdated, and it's not fair. And if you say, well, a doctor told me to do this, doctors can be idiots too. You know what I'm saying? Unless you stay on top of everything and go towards like, hey, like I gotta learn and progress and grow. Like it's so easy to have a PhD.
I mean, we deal with that a little bit in the training rooms and stuff like that.
I was just about to say that.
The teams you're on, the training rooms, you're kind of dated to what they know. And guys like yourself, like I've learned a lot from you over just being with you for a year.
Vice versa.
And
me too.
Yeah, and you just kind of realize the education you try and get outside of the facility,
right?
And the stuff you read into or listen, whether it's a podcast or any of that information out there, and you start to learn and question a few things or try to challenge, not necessarily challenge it, or you realize your innocent self bringing it up in that environment, and when they kind of just like laugh at you or you know, just frown upon it or belittle it, and you're just like, oh, man, what, you know. I've read this actually has some really beneficial stuff, and a lot of trainers or doctors or anybody, they need a lot of data and research throughout time to kind of prove that, instead of being like Ben Greenfield, somebody who experiments on himself all the time and can give you data and some stuff to try out and go after, and you're kind of like, yo, I'm going to do this too. They're kind of like, nah, we're not there yet, or that, no, it doesn't make sense because of what I was taught back in, you know, the 90s.